Hello, good morning. Good morning from a very damp Gloucestershire here today. Today is the 15th of February, so we celebrated Valentine's Day yesterday. And yeah, it's really damp out there this morning, very grim, very wet, very grey, but a perfect crafting day. So if you've got a day off from work today, you won't be doing anything out in the garden, hopefully, so you could set yourself down and craft for the day or for the morning. So today I'm going to be crafting with the garden greenhouse, the bundle. I've got another die set that I'm pulling in. Following on from last week's live, I'm just actually going to check that I'm live in the right place because I haven't done that yet, so just bear with me as I start waffling on. Good morning, Lucy-Anne. How are you doing? Bit wet, isn't it? Bit grim. Alfie wants cuddles. Good boy. Go and lie on your bed now then. Yeah, so following on from last week, I created a couple of cards with you using the garden greenhouse. I keep wanting to call it greenhouse garden for some reason. I don't know why. But I used the dies with the actual greenhouse and created a couple of cards, and I'll pop on with those after just to remind you. He's sitting on my feet. He's got the whole of the studio to lie on. He's got a bed over there. He normally likes to get right under the table. And then he sits on my feet. And I'm going to have to move in a minute. Bless his heart. He's a good boy. He's a really good boy. Okay, so I am good, thank you, Lucy-Anne. Tired, I'm still waking at silly o'clock. We normally go to bed around 10 a.m. Both of us, we keep waking up like 11:30. Not long after we've gone to bed, that's crazy. And then I'm waking up at about 1 o'clock and then about 4. So I feel like tired at the moment. And I think I've got some sinusy issues as well, so yeah, a bit congested, but apart from that, totally good, thank you. Happy to be here crafting with you today. So without further ado, I'm going to move everything out of the way, set you down onto my desk, and let Facebook catch up while we get everything lined up and ready to craft. So bear with me. Sorry, Alfie, I think I knocked you then. Move everything over this way a bit more this week. Flip you down. Good morning, Kay. Just as I'm faffing with my phone, I can see you hopping on. How are you doing? How are you? What's your weather doing? We're typical Brits, aren't we? We love to talk about the weather. Facebook's just frozen. Get some light on. Wait for this grid paper to sort itself out. You can see I've pulled out a couple of die sets today. I don't normally like to use more than one or two, and I am pulling in something else, but it's a bit of a classic. So I think, looking at my view, hello, Kim. Good evening. How are you? Just straighten up. I'm trying to check my view, check comments. As I've said, when Facebook throws me out, just after I go live, it changes my view on my Mac. I can't see properly. Can't read comments and see what I'm doing at the same time. Okay. Okay, you're good. You've got dry weather, but rain coming later. Yeah, we had quite a lot of rain over the weekend as well, which kind of, Sunday was really damp. We didn't really do a lot just because it was so miserable. Saturday it was better. So good morning, Ellie. How are you? You've still got a faint line, bless you. Yeah, I am hoping you're going to be here for Thursday. I'm sure you'll be fine by then. We are Tuesday now, so I'm sure you will be fine. Who else is here? Okay, right, found an old roll. I say I've found an old roll. We were talking about washi tape the other week. I have tons of Stampin' Up washi tape that used to come in the Project Life kits. And there's something about washi tape, it's precious, isn't it? Because it's pretty, we don't like to waste it. So my little roll of sellotape has run out, so I'm going to use it to hold my grid down. Okay, I think view is good. I may have to zoom in a little bit. So today's focus is garden greenhouse, but we're not seeing any greenhouses today whatsoever. It's such a fabulous set. Dies on their own are £32, and you get a really good selection in here. You can see these actually coordinate with, well, you can't see, but it's slightly obvious because they're quite bold outlined dies, that they coordinate with something, because I mean, what would that be apart from a bush, I guess. But the others are quite standalone, so you could use this without the dies if you didn't own, could use it without the stamps if you didn't own those. But as a bundle, they are £47.50. Brilliant. And of course, remember at the moment, if you do buy these as a bundle, you'll earn yourself a free celebration item. So good morning. If you are hopping on, I can see names popping up on my phone. Jacqueline, good morning. Long time no see. Yes, how are you doing, my lovely? How are things? Yeah, I see names popping up on my phone, and then I'm thinking, actually, this person might be working, and so I better not mention their name. So I'm going to refrain from doing that in the future, because I know some of you kind of are just watching me maybe whilst you're working. You're multitasking while you're working from home. So, right, let's get my chair out of the way. So greenhouse dies, I'm also focusing on these because they are new, the beautiful shapes, and I'm going to be using just a couple of dies from there. But also, I'm pulling out an Old Faithful just for one die. I'm going to be using this large die from the TaylorMade tags. And both of these I can highly recommend as kind of staple dies for your stash. They're die sets that you're going to kind of be drawn to often, regardless of whether you're doing a themed card with something like this or just a general card. You will make good use of any of those dies in that set. Right, let's pop these up by my machine. Be pulling those back in in a moment. I'm also using just the splat stamp from this gorgeous Celebration freebie. Got a couple of cards here that I've done in the past you've seen. One of these you may not have seen, but the flowers in this set are stunning. This was a Facebook Live, I think. And the bird is pretty. I'm just sad that it's only a celebration item. I may have to do a class with it. I'm not sure you've seen this one. I don't think I have shared this with you. That was from a team swap. So yeah, I think I might have to do an extra class next month using this set. Ellie, the hexagon dies are not stitched, sadly. I just saw that popping up on my phone. So no, they're not stitched. But they're great. So these dies here, that looks like an Alfie hair, but it's a scratch. They are actually, they've got like an extra layer in there, which I've shown you that it kind of embosses. So it's not a deep etch in the metal. It doesn't cut, it just embosses on those and on that little rectangular ovally one as well. Right, so I'm using the splat from here because you know that I love a splat. We're also using another celebration item, just a bit of the Sunshine and Rainbows DSP. I've shown you these. They are proving a very popular free choice. They're just so pretty. So pretty. What else have I got in here? I've got another stamp set, but I'm not using that. Right, let's get on with the task in hand and we can go through some other things afterwards. So, colour combo of the day. A couple of old ink pads in here. Ellie, you couldn't tell from the catalogue. Yeah, they are a really good, they're just a good all-rounder. And we've got hexagons in there and circles. They're very usable. So, I don't know if you can see with the reflection. We've got soft seafoam, coastal cabana, little bit of soft suede, Bermuda Bay and Sahara Sand. So those are the colours we are using. I'm going to pull in Coastal Cabana, put my main colours up there, and then I'm going to be using the Sahara Sand for splats and the soft suede for a greeting, just to make it pop out a little more than the Sahara Sand. Feel a bit dark. Got a dark spot going on here. Okay. Bit of bright colour for me today. Absolutely adore this colour combo. Look at these three together, even with the neutral there of Sahara Sand. They're all curry colours. Yes, they are. A bit of bright though. Bermuda Bay is quite bright, but I love it. So love how the Sahara Sand kind of tones it down a little, although on this card we are using just a very little smidge of it. So let's start. Let's put some pieces over to one side. This is part of the, is it Rainbow of Happiness? Sunshine and Rainbows. Oh, so many rainbow words. DSP, so that's the free celebration one. I've just cut a skinny strip of the Bermuda Bay. And I love how our paper, our pattern papers kind of help us to determine our colour combos. So in this pack, what have we got? Bermuda Bay, Flirty Flamingo, Granny Apple Green, Magenta Madness, Mango Melody, Misty Moonlight, Petal Pink, Pool Party, Soft Sea Foam, So Saffron. Such a beautiful array of colours. But by picking out one sheet, you know, you could just choose like the colours in this rainbow for a card. So the papers just give us so much inspiration, and we all need a starting point, you know. I'm going to be honest, I start with a sketch usually, and then I will either see something in a colour combo that I fancy having a go at, but also it depends which stamps that I'm using as to what colours we're going on. Hello from Washington State in USA. Hello Belinda, how are you doing? Thank you for stopping by. So this morning, as I was talking, if you've just hopped on, where's my stamp set gone? Right in front of me. I'm using the garden greenhouse, but we're not using any of the greenhousey dies. We're just using like the leafy images today. So just kind of another way of using it, because when you initially look at this, you just think greenhouse. Okay, how many cards can I make with a greenhouse on? But it's not just about the greenhouse, and hopefully I'm going to show you that today. So standard card base for me in basic white, and this measures 5 3/4 by 8 1/4. I'm going to fold this one in half. Take my bone folder just to reinforce that. A little bit sniffy here, so I will try not to sniff over camera. Just looking at comments, sorry. You're saying hello to each other. Right, what do I want to do first? Always look at my card and think, how would I normally do this first? Let's start with the base. Let's start with the base. So I need a scrap. And I've got my foam mat, and I've mounted up. This is a large block. This is an E block, yes. So quite a large block, and I've mounted up this lovely leafy image, and I was talking about this last week. So this image here, you can see it's got a little bit of fluff on there. It's kind of textured, it looks very grainy, and it does give you that effect when you stamp it. But you've got these stems coming out here, and then you've got these little flower heads that you can sit on top. So I love that, but you can use it like I showed you last week. This is a card from last week. I just used this stamp just to create some corner kind of background on here. And it doesn't, you wouldn't look at that and think, well, I wouldn't, and think, oh gosh, there's a flower head missing off there. It just looks like a very fine stem of grass in my world. So I'm going to use this one on our background. But first, let's pull out my good old blending brush. This is my like pale green, and I'm going to use the soft sea foam. Let's put you up there. Oh, that's very well used. Let's use this side. I have got a new sheet waiting for me. And we're just going to pick up some colour. Let's just check you're in shot. I feel like you've moved a bit. Have I moved you? Let's tape down the other side. And then we'll stay square. So I'm just going to pick up in a circular motion. And I feel this does pull quite a lot of ink out of your ink pad. I seem to re-ink my ink pads more regularly now that I use blending brushes. So I just want to add some subtle colour straight onto the base of my card. So this is a card of very few layers for me. So we've only got one extra layer going on top of this. So I'm focusing more over to the left side of the card and the bottom right. Now, soft seafoam being a very pale colour will take a little while to kind of build up. So just like gradually add layers, because we don't want any harsh spots. Gradually add some layers on top so that you get, I'm not sure if you can see that, and it will take time for, I'm going to add a little bit more. It will just take a bit of time for the replay, for the delay. I think that'll be enough. A bit more down there. Okay, so can you see it looks like a bit of a grubby stain on there. And I'll put that onto one side and then open up my Coastal Cabana. And then with this large, lovely, leafy foliage stamp, I'm going to ink that into the Coastal Cabana. I'm going to stamp it off because I don't want it full strength. And then I'm going to place it over on this side of my card. Like that. Okay. So it's stamped off and you've got like a bit of gradient in there, like shading. Just checking comments. You're doing well, Belinda, good. Yep, all good here, thank you. Just the weather's a bit grim. Tessa, hi, how are you doing? You can't stay, you got your grandchildren. Oh, how lovely. You've got half term this week. Okay, I think ours is next week. Kay, you love soft seafoam. Yeah, it's just a lovely subtle green, isn't it? It goes, I just feel it works really well, you know, with these colours. So, right, so we've got this stamped on here. Next, what we're going to do, open up the Bermuda Bay. I've got a very old Bermuda Bay that still works lovely. We have so many chats about old style ink pads, new style ink pads. They all do kind of the same job. And once you've got the old one, you just need the re-inker. Now I've mounted up 2 of the little flower heads. What I'm going to do is pull in. Don't like going from that side. I keep switching. Try to avoid having my arms right under the camera all the time. I'm just going to ink up in full strength a little flower. I need to get my head over really to do this. Right, I think I want it. This little flower kind of has like a flat bottom and then at the top it has like a pointy petal going up. To me that's the bottom of the flower. To you it may not be, but I'm just going to pop that one on there. So I'm just following these stems and hoping, because I'm 10 foot away from what I'm stamping, that I'm kind of lining them in. And then there's another stem coming out here. And another one here. And there is one hiding. So there's this one here, but I am not gonna lie, I'm finding that one really hard to line up. So I'll do it and it probably will be out of alignment. But I don't know why, I am just not seeing how to line it in perfectly. I mean, it might just work today. It's not too bad. So that one kind of just sits in. On my original, I left it. And now I'm looking at it, I feel it needs one on there. So we've just got like a little background going on here. Move these out of the way. Now I need to do a little bit of die cutting. So I'm gonna put my card base to one side. I'm gonna bring in some scraps. So I want some Bermuda Bay, some Coastal Cabana, some soft sea foam. I've treated myself to a brand new bottom plate. I've labelled it so that when other people use this remains as a bottom plate, and that's quite important because I feel, it's got a bit of static on there, I feel that keeping your bottom plate flat is important. This one has a little bit of a bow going on, so when I put it on it's wobbling around, but I just feel your bottom plate should be as flat as possible. And then what I'm going to put on here, I'm going to lay all of these. Actually, let's chop that up a bit. We don't need all of that. Just going to move around a little bit. Might have to tape some of this down. And first of all, I want my tag die. And then from the greenhouse dies, I love these little flowers. I think they're really, really sweet. And I love you get two of each of these sizes. And then we're going to have a bit of foliage. And another bit of foliage. But we're going to do it in Coastal Cabana because it's my card and the foliage can be any colour, can't it? It doesn't have to be green. We just want it to look pretty. I might just... oops, tape that down because that's the one we don't want to get moved. These will all be pretty safe on there. Let's cover over that with my scrap, even though this is getting a bit grubby. Let's cut another bit. I'm going to trim a bit off of here just to pop over the top of that white panel because then it will reduce any marking on here from this plate onto that white layer. I've still got a crack, but it's still working. Right, let's hope nothing moves. As I turn around, I think the worst scenario of this is that you don't want any dies overlapping. Can you see how close they are? If they overlap and you run them through your machine, they will kind of squish together. It's not a good thing to happen. Okay, so got a couple of flowers. Got this lovely, reminds me of Orla Keeley kind of style. Lots of scraps, and hopefully you can see that that is nice and clean. My scrap piece of paper over the top of it just helped to protect it from that rough plate that was going on top of it. And then we've got this one which tends to stick a little. Where's my take your pick? Can you see these holes? Hopefully you all know this. You've got holes here. If you push into those, it just pushes out the cardstock from inside of the die. How pretty is that? Isn't that so delicate? Right. Move all of that out of the way. dies go back on the magnetic plate straight away to reduce them being lost or put in the bin, because that happens, doesn't it? And it's very sad when that happens, when you have to buy a new set because you're missing one. Okay, you like this stamp? Yeah, it is really pretty. I mean, it would look lovely like that just with a greeting underneath. So very pretty, and of course not greenhousey. Right. Oh, I need to do another bit of stamping, die cutting, I mean. Just realised, seeing that piece there, pulling in from the beautiful shapes, I'm just going to run through these. I think I only need one of these, but I'll run it through because they come as a pair. So what did you all get up to over the weekend? Anything exciting? Did you do anything different for a change? Did you go visiting? On Saturday the weather was okay. It was a bit grim, but it was dry. We did go down the Lane. Someone has curled up on his bed over there, and his big brown eyes staring at me. He thinks I'm crazy because I'm stood here talking to myself. He looks at me rather strangely. Yeah, so we took him out on Saturday because we knew Sunday was going to be pretty grim weather. So I worked Saturday morning, which is quite usual for me. And Sunday, we did food shop. We took a drive over to Stratford upon Avon. Anybody been there? It's lovely. We didn't get out. We went over there to get something. But it's lovely in the summer. If you ever get the chance to go there, just to have a little wander, it's a lovely place to visit. Right, I've pulled in, so from that celebration set, the Friendly Hello, got this splat here. And I think the card I'm using today, I could have quite easily used these flowers instead of some of these die cuts. And what I want to do is pull in Sahara Sand. We'll bring this little scrap back in, and we're just going to do a little stamp off and then just a bit of splattage at the top and bottom. Now I may have to add some more in after if I've not done them in the right place, but that's not a problem. And then I cut a little piece of Sahara Sand. Okay, you've been to Stratford. Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? You can take a boat out on the lake, can't you? Yeah, really nice. Not been there for a while. They quite often have a market over there as well, down by the lakes. So I've cut this piece of Sahara Sand that's going to sit on top of my tag. And it's a bit of an odd measurement because the tag isn't an exact measurement. So I've cut it slightly larger. I may have to trim it. I think I'll do it that way because that way's just slightly shorter. So the tag actually measures 1 3/4 and a smidge. You all know what a smidge is, don't you? It's not even a 1/16. It's kind of half of that. And then it's 1 3/4. Sorry, measuring two things, holding up two things. So it's 1 3/4 by the width of the tag. And then I'm just going to trim off that edge once I've stuck it on. And then what I want to do on this piece is pull in my mat. Let's get my fresh piece of grid. Right, make sure I've got the right way up. It's that way. So I want to pop it this way. And then I've pulled out this lovely little greeting which says "Love grows here." And although I'm stamping on Sahara Sand, I pulled in my soft suede ink pad because it just kind of stood out a little better against, you know, tone on tone. So I'm just going to ink that up. Start with that straight. I'm just going to pop it down over that side like that. So we've just got Love Grows here. And I'm going to add some splats in after. I'm just looking at something else where I can see splats. And then I'm going to stick this. No, I'm not. I'm going to do something else first. I'm going to trim it. I'm holding it up against that edge, and I want to trim off. It moved then. Trim off that excess, and I'm just going to do that with my snips and hope that it doesn't move. I've got a little bit there, but I can trim that better when I stick it down. With my two little hexagons, I only need one. I wanted you to see like a different way of using them. So I'm just going to create like a little border. So imagine if this was longer. Let's get the Tombow going. When the Tombow gets going, out comes the wet wipe. I did give my chamois a nice clean this morning, so... Oh, it's really raining now. You might even be able to hear it on the Velux. That's the one thing when you have Velux, kind of the elements are kind of more elevated. And then I'm just going to line those up on a line. Hopefully you can see this. And then pop this layer over the top with just a bit popping out like that. I'm going to push them together and then make sure they're both square. So we've just created like a little border underneath there, and then we can stick this down. Have I done that? Yeah, I thought I'd done it on the wrong side then. Put a bit on there. My Tombow is very free flowing this morning. And then we're just going to pop this one on. This is where I decided that I may need to add some extra splats. So I want a few splats showing top and bottom. And I've got it lined up to my grid paper so I can see that if it's kind of square. I think Alfie's just gone out, and when he goes out, the weather's like this, he's only a little thing, but he gets wet. I'm just hoping he doesn't come in and shake. The last time he did that, he came up here, got on his bed, and then decided to shake, and he shook all up the wall. All muddy marks. Goodness me, that's heavy rain. And then we're just going to snip off really carefully that excess. And then we've got a little tag. Can see a little bit of Tombow trying to escape at the top, so we'll get rid of that. So the next thing I want to do behind my tag is add this little skinny strip of DSP, and I think this is 3 inches, yeah. So our DSP, this particular pack comes in 6 inches. Can you hear the rain? Yeah, it's wet out there, we should say. So, yeah, DSP comes in 6 inches, and quite often I cut it in 3 and use strips at 3 so that you get like double strips. So if you cut it at 3.5, then obviously you're left with a shorter piece. But 3 inches is quite a good size to pop on a card. But I don't want this one quite as long. So I'm just gonna put glue on here. A little bit of glue on here, line it on a line. And I think this is about 1/2 inch. And I want it just above where the Sahara Sand cardstock comes in. And then maybe 1.5 little block. So 1.5 block in on each side. Let's check that straight. Yeah, of course, we live in an area where we don't get flooded here, but the road often floods when we've had a lot of rain. The main road kind of out, which is probably about a 10-minute drive away, that's where it floods. And there are different routes out, but they're like rat runs, like roads that you wouldn't want to go through in rush hour because everybody would be taking that route out. So it usually happens maybe once a year. And it's a long way to go the other way around, let's just say. Got to get on motorway for Jason to get to work anyway. When it's like that, I maroon myself here. Ellie, it's raining on your cabin roof, but you can still hear mine. I think it's because of the velux, because there's 2 big velux in here. So I think that's why you can probably hear it more. Right, behind here, let's pop some mini dimensionals. Still have terrible nails, so I cannot pick anything up. I think that'll be enough. But still managed to get the backs off of these little babies there. I think they're so easy to get off. And then I'm going to pop this down onto my card over this side. I think I've got a lot more seafoam on this than my original, but that's fine. And just pop that on there like that. And then we're going to add in some foliage. I think this rain is set in for the day. So I do have to venture out later. I've got my coffee and card. If anybody's local and fancies getting out for an hour, come and join me at the Hub in Asherworth. A cup of tea or a coffee. Make a card. Have a bit of social chit chat, all for £5. And then this one is going to go, just a little bit of adhesive on there, kind of opposite. And I'm just overlapping the stems. Like that, a bit of Tombow. Oh, it's calmed down now. And then just take the end off with my putty on. Much easier to pick things up. I'm just going to use the end of my Take Your Pick tool just to curl these 2 flowers. And I'm going to add some Tombow. Just a gentle squeeze. So these are in Bermuda Bay, so a slight contrast against this like foliage of Coastal Cabana. Let's just give that a press down. This is such a handy tool. If you don't have one, honestly, you need to put it in your basket. I use it all of the time. It's so handy. And then I have pulled out my basic pearls and my gorgeous linen thread. Someone is trying to ring me. Let me just get rid of that. Oh. All things happening on my MacBook. Very rarely does anybody ring when I'm drawing a live. So I'm just like running my nail and finger through my linen thread to straighten it out. I'm just going to tie myself a little bow. She's probably going to leave me a message now. And pull the loops. Don't want it too big. And then trim off the end. And then glue dots. I've got a new packet of glue dots and they are different now. We used to have the glue dot actually on the roll, but now it's on the piece that you pull off. So I tend to just fold it back and pick up my glue dot how I used to. I'm just rolling it. I don't want a whole flat circle. I want it rolled so that, just getting rid of that, so that it doesn't show behind my bow. And then I'm just going to flatten that on, just move it up a bit, like that. Okay, so love glue dots for putting on ribbons and threads. And then with the pearls, take your pick tool again, let's just re-squish the putty, and I'm going to have a large one on here and a medium on the other one. Just give those a little press down, and there we go. So quite sweet, not too many layers, quite simple. Another use of how to do things with your tags. I know lots of you have got the tailor-made tag dies. They're so handy, so handy. And another use of the hexagons from the Beautiful Shapes dies. Okay, so don't just think of it, you know, use them as borders as well. Really, really good for that. Imagine a long length of those as a little border. Be really pretty, just to add a little something to an edge. So here's my original, and you can see this one is slightly darker with the green, but can you see where I didn't stamp that one on? But I did on that one. I think it looks better with it on. So there we go. Let's make a bit of room and do another card. Move those to one side. Let's bring in some more kits. Oh, I did a stepped up version of that one. Let's just bring this in. So I layered it. Let's pull that one back. It was a lot less subtle on my background, but this is definitely more stepped up. So I added it onto Sahara Sand cardstock, but I stamped this leafy image, this one. I stamped it and then die cut it out to raise it up, and then stamped the individual flowers and die cut those out as well. So a lot more kind of faffy, and added in a layer of the soft sea foam to kind of bring all the colours together. So that's kind of just a stepped up version of that. Right, next card. Got a couple of layers going on here. Got some pieces cut already. So exactly the same base size here. So 5 3/4 by 8 1/4. Fold that in half. Give it a crease. And then I've got a layer of Sahara Sand, which is 3 7/8 by 5 1/2 inches. And then a layer that's going to sit on top at 3 3/4 by 5 3/8. So we're going to work on this piece first. Move all of those over to one side for a second. And we're going to pull back in our blending brush and the soft sea foam. Bring in a little scrap for me to take ink off. So we'll just load it up, and then I just want to add a bit of colour at the top. I'll try not to go too heavy-handed with this one. So just a bit of colour up at the top. I think that's probably enough. Hopefully you can see the difference in there. Just put a bit more there. Looks a bit unbalanced. And then we're going to pull back in my mat, and then we're going to ink up again Oh, I've got lots of ink pads. Lots of inks in front of me. Bring that scrap back in to stamp off. Let's get that straight first. I'm going to ink this in the Coastal Cabana, stamp it off, and then stamp it. I do not know how high up, but let's just say there. I moved then, I hope that didn't move. No. How pretty is that? Just how pretty. I know there's no flowers or anything on it yet, but they are coming next. So I think I've just realised I missed some splats as well on my last card. I did, we'll add those in when we do these. So next I want to pull in the 2 little flowers, and those are going in Bermuda Bay. So we'll just add those in like we did before on the ends of the stems, and then we get a really nice contrast against the Coastal Cabana. Let's see if we can line this one in. I just find it really hard to see it. Missed again a bit, but I'm not worried. And then the little kind of daisy flower. If you're hopping on, I do apologise, I haven't looked at comments. Just pop those in. I think this is really pretty. Let's have a quick look at comments. I can hear Alfie licking his paws. He's under the table. Oh, he is very wet. He's down the other end of the studio at the top of the stairs, and I can just see wet floor. Soggy paws. And let's now pull in Sahara Sand. And we're going to take the little splat, stamp it off, and then I'm just going to add some splats. I just think it kind of finishes it off. It's like a little haze in above them. And I'm going to put a couple on this card as well, because I forgot to do it, and I meant to. Just think it finishes. Love a splat. Okay, back to the task in hand, and he's got on his bed now. So I do put, he's got a really cute bed over here, lovely fabric, like beige and white. I keep a towel over it because he's in and out of the garden all the time, up and down the stairs. So I put a towel over his bed just to, it's easier to wash the towel than keep washing the bed. Because I don't know about you if you've got a pet, but you're constantly washing bedding. Okay, next on this layer, I'm going to put it just to one side and do some stamping. Got a bit of die cut. I've done a bit of stamping ahead of time. Just need a scrap of white. And the other stamp that I've mounted from this set is one of my favourites again. I'm going to ink this with soft sea foam. I'm going to go on the outer part of my ink pad because it looks much paler in the middle. And just stamp one of those. That doesn't look so good, but I think once it dries, it's the nature of the stamp. It's kind of heavily etched. I'm going to try it again without so much ink and just see if we get a better, that's better. We see, you can see the center part of the stamp easier. And I just want to die cut that one out. And the other thing I'm going to cut, I've done some other cutting ahead of time, is, looking for the scrap, from the Beautiful Shapes, this little one here. Going to use that. And I do need a couple of those. So let's pull back in that one that coordinates. I do love our coordination. You know, obviously some things you can fussy cut out. But how much quicker is it to, on some things, just to run it through your machine. Right, let's just cut this quickly. Just pop that one. I'm going to cut a second one of these. They're quite teeny tiny. And I just thought this, it's like a bit of a finishing touch. These little triangles. Just another way of using these little dies if maybe you're not sure, you know, what do I do with those? Let's just put those to one side. And then while we've got the mat out, I just need to do one greeting. I'm going to use the same one. I'm going to use that Love Grows Here. So this one, I love the font in the middle there and how it teams with like the bold font of the other two words. I've just got a skinny strip of basic white. That looked a bit crooked. Let's have another go. That looked a bit low. That'll do. That would do. And just snip that one off. And I think that's it. I think we can start putting together. As I said, I've cut some pieces already. Okay, let's start with this layer and I'm going to mount it onto my Sahara Sand. So run of Tombow all around the back. Just layer that on. To just mount them together. Just kind of takes a bit of the plainness away. And then in here I've got my little strip of stripy Bermuda Bay. And I'm going to mount, I've got Tombow on me. That was a big sigh, Alfie. Let's mount this on dimensionals. Better put 4 on here just to balance them out a bit. And then I'm just going to pop that at the bottom here. It wants to come over a little bit. So hard to see. That'll do. And now before I add anything else on here, let's just put this onto my base. Otherwise, I'm going to flatten things. So we've got quite a crisp kind of looking base that's broken up by a bit of neutrals with a kind of a pop of bright in the middle. Hello Claire, my lovely, how are you doing? I'm guessing you're having this same grim weather because you're not far from me. It's miserable, isn't it? I hope you're doing okay anyway. Let's just scroll. So Claire, we're using a new stamp set from the mini catalogue called Garden Greenhouse. Not using any of the greenhouses this week. That was last week's Facebook Live. So you can go back and have a look at that. But we're just using some of the foliage images. And I've cut a few pieces already. I've chopped the end off of that one. Let's have another one of those. This cute little foliage and a couple of flowers. And then I've got some bits and pieces left to use up another time. So I'm just going to curl the edges on here. Are you working today, Claire? Give this one a little curl. To be gentle with this, because the stem is quite delicate. Let's pick these up. Pop the lid on. And then we can use that to give those a curl. What shall I do first? Let's put my greeting on first. So I'm going to add this onto the centre of my card, but I want to put in, might be easier to pick these up and place them. Just going to put a couple. Probably if I stab it. No, I just got the lid. Let's pull the back off. And then we're going to pop this greeting. Just got a curved up edge on there. Going to pop that one in the middle. Love grows here. Like that. And then we'll add in a bit of foliage. So I've curled these, I'm not going to add any dimensionals. Pop one over here. One on the other side. Must stop stooping. Does make my back ache when I do this live because I'm kind of hovering over my desk. I have tried, those of you that have been here to the studio, I've got the IKEA kitchen island behind me, and I've tried doing my lives from there, but it's much easier from this desk, and the kitchen island is probably almost a foot taller, which is better for my back, but for lighting and everything else, it just doesn't work quite the same. And then I wouldn't have such a good backdrop because there's a window behind and it's a bit closer to the window, so have to do with stooping over this desk, which isn't the best. Bit of Tombow on there. Pop that down there, just to use my take your pick to kind of hold things into position while the glue dries. And then these little triangles, I'm just going to pop down. What's up, Alfie? He's just heard something. Just have a look outside. It could be maybe the postman's over by the gate. Got such sensitive hearing, haven't they? Dogs. He hears obviously the things that we don't hear. So I've just popped on there 3 little dots of Tombow. Of course, he could be hearing a bird because the birds are very, very noisy at the moment. And I'm just going to pick them up and put them under here, one by one. Like that. Oh, you are such a good tool. So handy. Make sure they're all kind of straight and square. So again, you're thinking, well, what is she going to do with those little triangles? They're just like a bit of added something, we shall say. Just add a little bit of something extra. Keep these bits, got all these bits hovering around. Put those in the pot for later. Add a bit of Tombow to my flowers. Could, of course, use a glue dot on the middle here. Hello, Belle. I'm just seeing you popping up on my phone. You're watching from your mum's, so no dog walking duties. Well, the weather here is vile for dog walking, I'm afraid. I hope your mum is doing okay, sweetheart. Yeah, pouring down there. You like the little details, Ellie. Yeah, it's all about the little details, isn't it? Claire, you love it. I'm glad to hear that. I'm hoping you can come and see me soon. Would be lovely to see you. When you get straight, I'm just going to give that a minute to dry. And then just to finish, let's round that putty. I'm at the very end of my putty, but I've got a brand new one to go in. Let's just push off, oop, a large pearl. Oh, stuck to me. I must have Tombow on me. Did I leave the glue dot? No. Doesn't want to sit. There. And then again, oops, just knocked my head into my phone then. It's because I'm right down here trying to see what I'm doing. Now we could, I haven't done it on my original. I might do it on here and then we can tell the difference. So, I call this simple. You may not call this simple. It's definitely not clean and simple, but it is just a bit of background stamping with a couple of stamped leaves, a couple of die cut flowers, just all layered up. So at first glance, it kind of looks tricky, but it's not too tricky. Let's add a couple of these teeny ones on these flowers and hope that it just doesn't look a bit OTT. I think that looks quite sweet, actually. What do you think? Claire, I know you'd love to get crafting again. All in good time. When you're settled, it'd be lovely to see you. Of course, you're welcome over for coffee anytime. On a day that I'm working in the studio, if you're on a day off, come over and have a coffee and a catch up. Yeah, so what do you think? With the extra or without? So my mission today was to kind of show you, which one should I bring in? That I'm not a fan of that. I don't like this. So I'm not going to pull it back in. Just don't love it as much as I like this one. Compared to last week, where we were very much greenhouse, and I adore these. These are part of a class in my studio at the end of the month. I've got a Saturday morning class. I will be offering kits in the post. But complete greenhouses on here, to very non-greenhouse images on here. Let's just, I'm gonna zoom in a weeny teeny bit if I can, if it will let me. So you can see those closer. Do up some ink pads. Thanks for shaking everywhere, Alfie. So kind of you, all up the cupboard. I often ask myself, what's more work, pets or children? You've got a closer view now. We're very close, aren't we? Come back out a little bit. Oh, you almost saw the carnage of everything around me then. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased. Talking of pets, another hair there. I'm pleased with how these came out and hope that you can see that it's not all about greenhouses. It's about what is in that stamp set, what is in that die set, and making good use of all of the elements that are in there, not just the initial thing that you see on the stamp cover. So both stamps and dies, they're on page 28 of the mini catalogue, £47.50 as a bundle. And remember, I'm trying to reach without getting my head. Celebration is still running until the end of the month. Gosh, this looks very dog-eared and battered, doesn't it? But I flick through it regularly. And the splat that I used, let's just flick through, it came from the Friendly Hello bundle. So if you purchase the garden greenhouse bundle, you can choose a free celebration item, but this is a higher spend item at £90, so just remember that. But absolutely adore this. And I was thinking, how lovely would these flowers look in place of these die cut flowers? Might have to have a go at that. If I do, I will share it with you. Other thing, really important, joining my team at the moment, you get 2 free stamp sets if you join during celebration. So only through to the 28th of the month. I would love to see some local people this afternoon at the Ashleworth Hub. come and make a card with me. We're doing this card here, so Real Pop of Colour. That's one I've shared on a Facebook Live before. So yeah, I would love to see some of you locals. Also, we've got the magnet board kit. That's one of our new kits that's just been released. Claire, I thought I sent you a mini catalogue. Did I not? Sent you an annual maybe, and a winter. Maybe that was before Christmas. But yeah, if not, saying my video is ended on my Mac, but my phone is still saying I'm live, so I can still see I'm here. Yeah, really good. I've ordered this kit. It is on its way. So, and don't forget about the All Together promotion that's running at the moment. Got this gorgeous set of blends and the paper, which I think I showed you last time, but I have got it here. Got this lovely set of black and white papers that are crying out to be coloured, blended, spritzed with your blends, with your blending brush. Fabulous pack of paper. Even if maybe the stamps aren't for you or the dies aren't for you, the stamping blends and the papers are definitely worth getting. These are early release items, so they will be coming later, so do remember that. Thank you so much for joining me. I don't think I've got anything else to share with you. I think I've shown you everything that's in my little basket. But take care if you're out and about. If you're in Gloucestershire, you will need an umbrella if you are leaving the house today, that is for sure. And I would even recommend wellies. It's wet out there. It's nasty, really nasty. But do take care on your travels. And thank you so much for joining me. I love doing these lives. I remember a long time ago when I was petrified at the thought of going live, but now I just love it. I love being with you. I love sharing my love of the products, and it kind of just, it makes me feel like you're here with me, and that's really important because you cannot beat being with people. So yeah, anyway. Another close-up. Thank you for joining me, everybody. Please take care, and I will be back with you very soon. So bye for now.